Hello everyone, and yeah, welcome. This is the R3 2022 release webinar. We are talking all things productivity today, and we are, delighted to have you here. So let's begin. Let's introduce ourselves a little bit here. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be joining us from. This is us. I'm your host, one of your hosts today, Sam Basu, and I have some amazingly smart friends of mine that I've brought along with me. So why don't we go around with Rick first.
Hi, Sam. Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. Hi, everyone out there in TV land. This is Rick Hellwege. For those who haven't been with us before, I'm a full stack developer. I'm the reporting guy, as Sam calls me, and at Progress, I am a principal sales engineer. So when you call in to talk about all of your product questions with our sales team, likely you'll be talking to me.
All right, and Eve.
Hi everyone, I'm happy to join this group of great minds here today. I work on the developer advocacy team with Sam, and I'm mainly responsible for the Fiddler product line.
All right, and Misha.
Hey everybody, my name is Mihail Vladov, and I am here to talk about Telerik JustMock.
All right, so folks, we are going to cover three major things today. This was a big release. We will talk about exactly what went into the release, but we are here to talk about Telerik reporting, JustMock, and Fiddler. All three products that we know people love, and hopefully we can enable more of enterprise workflows with what we have done in this release. So while you're seeing and hearing, just the four of us, we do stand on the shoulder of giants for these releases. Our product teams put in so much of work every release, and some of them are actually in the back channels, and you can, use your time to ask any questions you might have. So let's actually dive in and see what we have going on for today. So we are all about productivity, right? So throughout the week, we'll talk about all the things that we have covered. We are specifically talking about productivity today, and how we can, better do enterprise workflows that require reporting and unit testing and knowing what's going on in your network stack. So that's what we are here to cover. We did actually start last week, and we'll talk about when the release is out, how you can get the bits. That actually went out last Wednesday, but we were live at a conference that we host. It was Progress 360. It was also DevReach. So we had speakers from all over the world, and we took the opportunity to do a live stream from the event itself. So it was great to have engineering and PM and everybody kind of with us do an informal live stream or release party. But then if you are not used to joining us on Code It Live, this is on Twitch, so please come and hang out with us. We are on pretty much most of the week every day, and we informally do coding stuff, and you can come and see what we are up to with .NET and JavaScript and productivity and all the things. We did actually have webinars all through the week. This is our release webinar week here, and we have covered a lot of things. We do testing, and we take that very seriously. And the testing folks were like, no, we want to be, the cool kids. We want to hang out by ourselves, because they did a whole bunch of things this release. What is unique about our R3 release here is, for the first time, we have aligned all of the products to go out all together. So all of your, Telerik and Candy UI and Fiddler and Test Studio, they're all live at the same time. So testing is big. If you're looking for automation in your testing, this is something you should look at. They have new re-engineered ways to test your desktop application. So that was on Monday, and all of these things are recorded, so you can check out the YouTube videos later on if you want. Tuesday was all things JavaScript. We talked about all things Candy UI across Angular, React, and Vue, and jQuery. Then on Wednesday we talked about all things .NET. That was my good friend Ed and me talking about all things .NET for web, desktop, and mobile. And we are back on today, Friday, right, to close out the week on a strong note. We are here to talk about all things productivity. So reporting, JustMock, and Fiddler is what we're going to cover. Now, while you're here, we appreciate your time, but you should also use the time to ask questions of the product teams as you go along. If for some reason you have to run, we are recording this. We will put this up on YouTube. But while you are here, There's a Q&A panel on the webinar window, so use that to ask questions. We will try to answer them in text as quickly as we can, and then we would also maybe try to highlight and discuss some of the questions that benefit everybody else. And if you're on the Twitters, use the hashtag #HeyTelerik to ask you any questions. That way you're leaving a breadcrumb for the conversation, and we can get back to you. So everything that we talk about today, it's part of our R3 release. This is the last major release of the year. We'll do service packs in between, but everything that we did is all out as of last Wednesday, and every product team takes the time to write up exactly what we have done. So that's all up on blogs.telerik.com. In fact, there's a separate post just to cover productivity, all the things that we're going to cover today. So if you want to know the details, that's a great place to go check out. And while you're there, you might as well look at some of the other things, because a lot of you folks have DevCraft, and you may not even know that we can enable some more things for you. So it's always good to keep your eyes and ears open. And everything that so I am your slide monkey today. I'm the fluff, while Rick and Eve and Misha are the ones who actually know this stuff, and all the bits that they're going to show you, they're all live, so you need to go and get those latest bits. However you get it, maybe it's an install that you do from Telerik.com. Maybe you just get a NuGet package for the reporting bits, or maybe you do Visual Studio integration for unit testing. However you do it, go get the bits. That's how you're going to see these things light up for you. And we always say this, but we genuinely care about your developer experience. So whatever we are doing, hopefully you're seeing that our docs can stand up to what we are pushing out every release. You should not be struggling. So please talk to us if you need something improved, or if you really want a certain feature to be in the product. Feedback.telerik.com. We are always listening, and all of our demos are up as well. So that's my few minutes of housekeeping. Let's talk about reporting, because it's important. It's a key part of so many enterprise workflows. How can we help? So I'm going to bring on Rick here to kind of talk me through. So Rick, quick elevator pitch here. Tell me about reporting.
Sure. So for those who haven't heard it before, my quick pitch for reporting, it is a .NET-centric UI agnostic library for reporting features. That's the short version. The long version, I would be getting out of breath and on the verge of passing out. But it is all things reporting that can be bolted into your new or existing application to very rapidly bring reporting features online.
Right. And like Rick said, it's for you to build your reports however you want. You get to author your reports with the tools that you love, be it a standalone designer, or Visual Studio-based designer, or a web-based designer. And I'm just amazed how much the web-based designer has come along. We can connect to just about any data source, and then we get so many options to visualize your report and deliver those reports to your end users. So lots happening. So again, there is no dearth of the type of things you can put in your reports, all the UI that you can think of that's useful for data visualization. I mean, this is how you see trends and statistics in your data. Otherwise, it's just rows and columns of data. It's just hard to see. So this is how you visualize, and we give you all of the the nuts and bolts of your report out of the box. But we also have this thing called Report Server, which I particularly like. So Rick, why should I use this?
So as I said, Telerik reporting is a library. You need a developer or a team of developers to connect these decoupled components together into an application. Sometimes you just don't have the time for that. You don't have the need. Report Server, we took our own library, and we built the entire rest of the application around it. It's a simple installation, and you can quite literally be from step 0 to enterprise ready in a couple of hours.
Yeah, and I particularly like how many things are built into this, so I don't have to think about automating the distribution of my reports. I don't have to think about authentication. It's just and my data sources, and you're also giving your users a lot more wiggle room to build their own reports. So I really like the Report Server tool here. All right, so this is all that we do anyways, but what is new in this release? And Rick has some really cool things to cover, and I'm sure he is waiting to show off his demos. Rick always brings the fun. He builds really fun demos. But for the first time, we have a native Blazor report viewer. So Rick, tell us about this.
Absolutely. I'm super excited about this. The team is talking about it for a while, and I am so grateful that they got it done for this release. So everyone loves a little Blazor, especially those of us that don't like JavaScript. We like having everything, in native C# code, and the performance and the throughput you get with a Blazor application. Well, all of our report viewers at the core have been based around the HTML5, or at least the web-based ones, around the HTML5 report viewer, which at its core, again, it was jQuery. So that was kind of always a thorn, in my side, was no matter how good of an application I built in Blazor, I had to have this little jQuery widget in there. So the reporting team did me a huge favor, and they took our UI for Blazor library, which is truly native, no JavaScript at all, and they completely rebuilt our report viewer component using only the UI for Blazor components. So now you can bolt that into your application, and you can skip the entire reliance on jQuery and JavaScript.
Yeah. And if you are already building, web apps with Blazor, this will fit right in, because it's as if you're writing any other Blazor component. So it's a familiar syntax. It will, inherit your styles that you're doing in your app, and it's, very, very fast. So this is, like Rick said, it's a big step for all the Blazor developers out there. But there's more. The web report designer, again, I remember the journey, and actually our, the reporting team folks are here. We remember the early days of trying to do this on the web, and the browser is like your new VM. It's your canvas that lets you build everything. So it's amazing how fast we have caught up to the native clients. So Rick, what's new in the web report designer?
So with the web report designer, we have a lot of things that you can do that were very difficult to do in sort of a platform application. So once we kind of reached that feature parity where we got it to do everything we had to make it do, to have the same features as the Salem designer, we had to add a lot of fun stuff. One of them was last release, we talked about the universal search box. Well, that's coming now to be a little more like the universal command line in Visual Studio Code, sort of at the top of the page. It's now something you can type like commands into. And one of those new commands is onboarding. So the first time you launch the web-based report designer as a new application, it's going to launch you into a user tour where it'll take you around and show you the different parts of the designer and what they do, and have a few words about how to set it up in reports and the different sections. So this is great for your end users. The first time they launch into this utility, they'll get this built-in tour. And then of course, using the universal search bar, you can restart that tour whenever you want if you need a little refresher on what some of the different sections in the web report designer are for. And then the other thing we were able to add was some simplicity and power around the table and crosstab design. So we added some handles to allow you to reposition and work with the table items kind of globally. So if you think in Excel, how you can click on a table heading and select that entire column and then apply manipulations to that entire column or row, we added that feature for our tables and crosstabs.
Nice. Yeah, and I particularly like the onboarding feature, because like you said, like this is for your end users who might be, not being exposed to such a busy interface, and they might be non-technical people, and you are kind of walking them through, like, here's how you author a report, here are the different sections, here's your data, here's where you click on something and you see the properties. So it's really well done, just to kind of get somebody up to speed on the web report designer.
Absolutely, it's a very powerful tool.
Yeah. Now there is more for the dev side. So I hear Visual Studio templates, so walk us through.
Sure. So previous to this release, when you wanted to add reporting to an application, you would first create your application, whether it be a .NET Core web app or what have you. And then you could use the add new item pathway to add in the reporting features. What we did is we created brand new template applications. So from File New in Visual Studio, you can select the .NET Core reporting template, and it will build out the entire application for you. It will have a wizard to take you through and create the services, take you through and create optionally the web report designer and the services that manage that, and connect up all of the back end and front end components for you. So it even just makes that time to deploy, much faster.
Yeah, so the REST service is essentially the key piece that delivers the data and the report to your end users. And is it true, Rick, that I really don't have to write a single line of code? I can just point to my data and it'll do all of that for me?
Absolutely. You can generate reports using no code at all. The whole interface is a design first style. So you position things in real world measures, inches, millimeters, line them up, drag in the items that you want, and hit go, hit publish.
Nice. All right. Now the report designers are, as we said, come in a few formats. You could do Visual Studio, you could do web-based, but a lot of our customers do the standalone report designer, which is a wonderfully simple, but yet lets you do some very complex report designing. It's just a standalone, Windows app, and now it runs on .NET 6, right?
Absolutely. So that was a brand new thing we did. We took the standalone designer, which previously was for .NET Framework, and we rebuilt it for .NET 6. Now, on the surface, you might think, not much difference there because it's a platform tool. But what you have to remember is that the tool allows you to bolt in your own custom assemblies. So previous to this release, if you had a data assembly or some custom user functions assembly, it had to be built either for .NET Framework or for .NET Standard 2.0, which is the most universal of the standards. And then it would be recognized by the standalone report designer. Well, as of R3, you can bring in your .NET 6 or better packages and bolt those directly into the report designer, which will let you bring online additional user functions, data functions, and all kinds of extra features into the report designer.
Yeah. I mean, if I write like a custom aggregate thing that I want to use elsewhere in my application, now I can also use it inside of reporting. So that's nice. We do have a WPF report viewer that's for all of your Windows desktop apps, and we have updated kind of all of our Windows 11 themes to kind of go with the Office 365 look and feel. So that gets the rounded corners and the nicer look and feel. And it has two different modes, like light mode and dark mode. But I think, Rick, it also does like auto detects, right? So if you as a user, if you switch your theme, your report viewer will automatically switch as well. And then what's a content delivery node, and what are we doing there?
Sure. So the new CDN. So that idea around that is that for most of the report viewers, excluding the Blazor one we just talked about, you still have a package of JavaScript which has to be retrieved in order for it to render. Now, traditionally, this comes from your own server. It's actually fully automated, where it'll come from when the report viewer is loading as part of its life cycle. It requests from your REST service or your report server, whatever you have set up as your backend service, the requested scripts. And those get streamed from your server down to the client. And this is it's a very rapid workflow, but it does put the burden on you to send those files to the client. So with the CDN, Progress is actually hosting all those scripts for you. You can connect in the CDN service by turning on a couple of flags. So instead of sending those packages from your server down to your clients, it'll come from our server down to the client. And that allows us to have a little more performance because our servers are hosted sort of globally. There's replication. It uses the best locality, so you're getting your throughput and you're getting your pings down, and it just takes some of the burden off of your own servers.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So if you have customers who are using your reports in Australia or Africa, you may want to serve it up for somewhere that's a little closer to them. So that's awesome. All right, now this one is a little closer to my heart because I play a lot in this space. Nothing to do with this release in particular, but we have actually enabled this, and you can do this. So kind of taking a little back to the dev side of the things, .NET MAUI is kind of the latest .NET cross-platform stack. Lets you build truly mobile and desktop native apps from a shared single code base. So great story, and you can run this on iOS and Android, and you can run this on Windows and Mac, and this has come along a long way, and it's still evolving with .NET 6 and .NET 7. Now, one of the things that it does play really nicely is with Blazor, because like Rick was talking about, .NET developers who do web, you're understandably excited about Blazor. In the last 3-4 years, we've been able to do C# front and back. What .NET MAUI does is it embeds a really smart web view inside of the app. It lets you embed if you wanted to. and that will let you render just about any Blazor components and routing and all of the things. But it's also not Blazor centric. It will happily do other JavaScript frameworks as well. But that web view is a really, really polished web view. This is not like Electron.js where you're shipping Node.js or Chromium. It's just a tiny web view, and it's borrowing from whichever the browser the user has. So this actually opens up some interesting possibilities for us, because if you're building a .NET MAUI app that is let's say a native client on iOS or Android, or maybe a WinUI or a Mac Catalyst app on Windows or Mac, now you can embed Telerik reporting just like that, as if it's a web app inside of a .NET native mobile or desktop app. So I was talking to Rick a couple of days back, and both him and I are excited about the possibilities here. So yeah, this is kind of new, and we actually wrote this up in a blog post. So there is nothing different you have to do as if you're rendering this on a web app. It just now works on native mobile and desktop apps. So very exciting, and I think Rick wants to show off some of this, and he's been itching to go. So Rick, if you're ready, why don't we give you the screen?
Thank you.
And you show us some of the things you talked about.
Let me. Okay. You see my screen?
See it. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Okay, so I think we're going to start with the Blazor, the native Blazor component, because this is one of the things I'm the most excited about. So this is just the sample application that comes with the installation for R3. So everyone should have this, and it will say Blazor native. Look for the native word, because we do have a non-native Blazor implementation too. But you'll notice that this is in your Razor code, just a standard Blazor component. There's really nothing tricky or happening. So this just comes in from NuGet, and you can add it to your application quite simply, connect it up with a couple of options. So let me go ahead and launch this. I have a lot to show, so we're going to be moving a little bit quickly. So this loads the report viewer, connects into your backend reporting system, and you'll see that you have this nice toolbar rendered with the UI for Blazor components. So thematically, semantically, this blends in very well with your Blazor applications. You maintain that same fluent UI across the application. And even though I know the engineer would be grumpy at me for doing this, I'm going to pop into the actual markup so we can see that there is no trickery happening here. You can see that these are actually our Telerik Blazor components being brought in here and rendered in the browser. So very cool.
And Rick, if you go back to the code where you're rendering the report viewer, I particularly like the fact that it just feels like Blazor, because it is Blazor. It's using Blazor components.
It is Blazor, yeah. It's, you have the nice markup, you have the event highlighting, you have the IntelliSense when you hover. Everything, all the things that we love, about Blazor and coding in C# just get passed through automatically. Not that this is a terribly difficult component to use anyway, but the fact that you still have all these options available to you just makes it just a little bit nicer, makes your day a little bit better. Okay, so let's look at the next feature. So let's see, we wanted to talk about the tour, the onboarding tour. So for that, I am going to go to an instance of Reports Server, which I deployed in Azure last night. This will be online for today and today only, because it's costing me a whole 10 cents an hour to keep this up. So let's launch into the dashboard for reporting. Now this one is a little bit slower than what you'll get in an enterprise application, just because I'm not doing a SQL Server backend for it. For the short lifespan of this project, it wasn't worth setting that up. But this is all running off of the disk in Azure. So you have your one of your reports here, and you can see that this is our dashboard report. And if I go back here, I can open this same report in the web designer. Now, this is going to spin up a web designer, bring in the resources, and take that same report we just looked at and open it for design view. And once that starts up, we'll be able to see our dashboard in the designer. Okay. Now, if you imagine that this is the first time that you've opened a web report designer, the tour would start automatically. Since my user session has done this before, I'll have to manually trigger it. So it's just the start onboarding command, and this is the onboarding tour. So you see that it has some words of getting started, and as you click next, it goes through each section, highlights it, and gives you some descriptions of what that section is for, what you can find in it, how to use it. So this is actually, quite nice for sort of a user getting started and seeing all the different parts of the web designer. And when you're done, you can just get to work. If you ever want a little refresher, you just go back and start onboarding again. So that's quite nice. While we're here, I can show if I move this down a little bit, you can see we have these new handles that we added. When you click on the handle, you get this context menu that offers you some table-specific functions. You can add columns, delete columns, you can rotate, but also just by clicking in the column header, it selects the entire column. Similarly for the row. This kind of gives you the ability to now do something that is universal across that row, that column, or if you actually grab this little box here in the corner, you can do something universally for the whole table. And it's hard to get the click in the right spot, but it highlights the whole table. Let's see, what else can I show you? Well, we have the, notice in my toolbar, actually, I don't know if my toolbar is showing off in this view, but let me launch into the .NET 6 based standalone designer, and I will open report 1. So you'll take my word for this next part, but earlier today I built a .NET 6 library, which I can load here, and you can see that it recognizes this .NET 6 library, which actually does nothing. There's no methods in here that I implemented, but it does recognize the library and is able to bring that into the report. So you can imagine this would be a library to have some data functions, connect into some proprietary business logic, really anything you need, and quite simple to bring that in with the object data source. How are we doing on time, Sam?
I think we're good.
Okay, 3 more things which I want to show. Let me get rid of these. So first, we teased the MAUI stuff, so let's launch into that. I have 2 versions here, if I can find them. Let's see.
So I think what Rick is trying to say here is you have 2 options to go in and render your reports on a .NET MAUI canvas. One is you have a web view that can just take any web content. So our HTML5 based web report viewer, you can just embed that right inside of your HTML, and it will render. Or if you are inclined to do Blazor inside of .NET MAUI, then you can use the new Blazor report viewer as well.
Absolutely. And thank you for explaining that, Sam. You are much better at MAUI than I am. Anyone who's not read Sam's Santa MAUI blogs, you're definitely missing out. So this is the web view, and this is the embedded HTML viewer in here. And again, this code, I just copy and paste it from our website, so nothing really that special. And I'll go ahead and launch into this. I think, yeah, I don't think I loaded this report. So this is going to give me an error when I launch it, but we'll still get the viewer. This is pointing up to my my report server that I brought online. Oh, I was cleaning this up last night, and I think I broke it because I took out some HTML on the front end to make it cleaner, and I don't think I deleted the services that were connected to those items. Let's see if that does it.
So while it's building, and it looks like it is building,
live coding.
Yeah. Oh, there it is. Look at that desktop app with the viewer embedded in it. Yay.
Yeah. I apologize. I did not upload my Star Trek report to my new server, but we have a Blazor MAUI application, with a web view. In that web view, we have the report HTML5 report viewer.
And this will work on Windows. This will work on Mac. This will work on iOS or Android. It doesn't care. It's a web view. It'll give you the corresponding web view of whichever platform that you're on.
and that was reporting from MAUI. I also have reporting from Blazing MAUI, which is very similar, but uses our Blazor component. Now, this is not the native Blazor component. This is the last release Blazor component.
Sure. But the important thing is you're doing this inside of an index.razor, so clearly a Blazor, component that you're trying to render.
Index.razor, which gets loaded into main page.xaml, which just blows my mind. I mean, the magic that's going on behind the scenes to make these things work astounds me. Now,
it's our inside joke that Rick is always throwing memes at us, inside in our internal Slack or Teams. And oh, look at that, that's the Blazor report viewer right inside of a Windows WinUI app. I mean, it's not a WinUI app, it's a Windows app, but they're using WinUI to render this. And while you're on Windows, it's actually using, WebView 2 as the, WebView component on Windows. So that's awesome. So Rick is always the one who's building, custom memes, and you hinted at something that you did with reporting.
I did, and I'm always trying to. I mean, I do this for fun, but I like to show how flexible the reporting library is and how far you can stretch it to do interesting things. So we've done some fun things, over the last several releases. And yeah, sometimes I get in trouble with our marketing people because I put a few too many memes in the blogs that I write. So what I did was I was playing with some APIs to see what was out there, and I saw that there was a nice API for memes. And when I was experimenting with it, I saw that it would give you just sort of a collection of memes as a get, which was pretty fun. So I went ahead and set up one of those. But then I noticed that there was another interesting method, and there was a post available that would allow you to customize the memes. So I thought, why not bring some interactivity into reporting? So I went ahead and I did a get to get this collection of memes. But then if you click on any of the names, it's going to use what's called a drill through action to send me into a different report where it will gather some information. And if I can type.
This is the reason why reporting is so powerful. So Rick can generate reports. One does not simply just generate a boring report. Yeah.
So this is actually really cool because what it's doing is it's taking these 2 lines of text and the template ID and sending it all back to the server where this image is getting generated on the server and then returned back to the client as a fully rasterized bitmap image. So if you were to right click and do open a new tab, you can see that it's all actually one image. So this was just something fun that I did, but it does show how flexible the reporting library is when you can bolt it into any existing sort of web services that are out there. Yeah, and thanks to Image Flip for providing the background for this.
There we go. Yeah. So I mean, you're essentially taking parameters from your report and just sending it off and then bringing it back.
Exactly. So this just comes back as an image from their server.
Nice. All right, Rick. Anything else? Anything else you want to show off?
Yeah, I think that's really it. We showed everything. We talked about everything. I have one bullet point which we didn't talk about. There was a new feature added that allows reports to be exported into separate Excel sheets instead of one large Excel sheet. This was, I think, the number 1 or number 2 most requested feature in our features portal, very near the top. So we do always try and add a couple of those per release, and that was the one that made the cut this time. Other than that, we talked about everything, and I know we're going to be talking to Eve a little bit later. I need to give major praise to Fiddler, because without the Fiddler engine, I would not have been able to figure out the somewhat complex handling of these parameters to get to and from the server. So I actually just copied the body of Fiddler into the body of my post to make this all work.
There you go. We're always dog pooling our own things. And so for folks who are waiting on Fiddler, just wait it out a little bit more. Eve is on, and we'll talk about it. But before we switch gears here, one quick question. I think the chat room here is, I mean, our engineers are already talking about this, but the whole CDN thing that we talked about, Rick, maybe it has some limitations, especially if you have an enterprise app where you're only allowing internal only, right? So that might be something of a blockage if you do not allow any traffic that goes, outside or comes in from outside for your app.
Yeah, if you have a lockdown intranet and there's no outside traffic allowed, then yeah, that may not be the best option for you. On the same hand, that also means that you're not allowing any data from outside either. So it's a pretty locked down application. But yeah, there are going to be some edge cases where that may not be the best option. But it's a tool in your tool bag. When appropriate, you can use it.
Exactly. All right, Rick, thank you so much, for showing off all the things. If you're okay, I'm going to take the screen back here. And let's see where we stopped. So we did see all of the things, and now you believe all the things that we did. So I think we want to make this a little bit interactive for you all. So let's ask you a quick question about reporting. Now that you've seen all the things reporting can do, if you are working with reporting right now, right, or maybe in the next 6 to 12 months, what is the thing that you are looking to do? Where are you looking to maybe render or deliver your reports to, or where are you looking to host, right? So Windows Server, are you going to the cloud? Are you looking at a Linux server or something else, right? So again, think about how you are doing reporting right now, and looking ahead at the next year, where would your reporting want to be? Where would you want to be? Are you keeping it all in-house? Are you looking at Linux? Are you looking at going to the cloud? So let us know your thoughts. Going once, going twice, and let's see where you folks at. Rick, I don't know what you're expecting to see here, but let us see. Oh, look at that. Windows Server is where most people are, but the cloud thing does actually surprise me. So many of you are happy to go to the cloud. So that's very good to know. All right. So I think that's a wrap with reporting. So Rick and team, thank you so much for walking through all the things that's new and happening in reporting. Reporting is such a key part of enterprise workflows, and I'm just glad that we do as much as we can to enable these workflows and help developers be a little bit more productive, help your users be a little bit more productive in how they are building and consuming reports. All right, it's time for JustMock, right? Because we as developers need the right tools, so we have more confidence as we are shipping apps every release and we are shipping code. We need to make sure our stuff does what it's supposed to do and doesn't break stuff. So this is where Misho comes in with JustMock. So Misho, if we can hear you, your elevator pitch on what is JustMock.
Well, JustMock is simply a very quick and very flexible, powerful mocking tool that will help you speed up your unit testing. And yeah, it's really a productivity tool that will really boost your the writing of your unit tests.
Yeah, and essentially your confidence as you're shipping code every release. And we see this in so many enterprises. They have code coverage metrics, like you have to have unit tests for this amount of your code, otherwise you're not shipping. So this is kind of key for you to have that confidence going into every release. Now I know Misho and the team keep really busy every release, but you got some feature fixing things. Hold on, is our microphone on? I'm hearing a little bit of an echo. Maybe it's from you, Misho.
No, it's not from me.
Okay. Yeah, everybody else, if you can mute your microphones, please. But essentially, we have JustMock that is really, pushing the limits on what is, absolutely future-facing, playing with bleeding-edge stuff. So, Misho, you have support for the latest in Visual Studio 2022 and .NET 7, right?
Yeah, well, for Visual Studio 2022, it's actually support in our Azure DevOps task. Yeah, we were waiting Microsoft to release the support in the VSTest task. You may probably know that our JustMock task is just a wrapper of the VSTest task that comes with Azure DevOps. So we have finally updated that, and now we can support builds with Visual Studio 2022.
Nice. And I also, no, I was going to say, like, I particularly like how much, you are on the bleeding edge with like .NET 7. So .NET 7 is cooking. It's not out until November of this year. We have had like 7 different previews. I think we are just at like RC, release candidate 1, but you already have support for that in .NET 7.
Yeah. Actually, Microsoft introduced a very interesting thing. All assemblies by default in .NET 7 will have marshalling disabled, and for JustMock, this is like game changing. And we've put a lot of efforts to overcome that challenge, and we can say that we did. And JustMock now supports .NET 7 latest preview. I think that there is a release candidate on the way. So once we put our hands on that, we will test it. And yeah, with the official release, we will release a new version that will officially support .NET 7.
Right, so this is coming by the time .NET 7 comes along. And I actually did have the DevOps thing here, but you already mentioned this. If you are doing anything with CI/CD, Azure pipelines, we can now fully support Visual Studio 2022. And what about the new file path selectors? What are those, Mihail?
Yeah, in the JustMock Azure DevOps task, there were a field where you should enter the path to the JustMock profiler. And in some instances, our clients have very difficult time to understanding where exactly is the profiler. So now we've changed that plain text field to a file path selector, where you can just simply click and select the JustMock file, the JustMock profiler file. And that is really easy now compared to the previous state.
Nice. All right, now let's just say I'm building a modern .NET app and I'm using async in await. I'm making a call to a web service, and I just don't want that. I want it to be mocked while I'm, writing my unit test and, testing things out. So you did something with return async. So tell us about that.
Yeah, well, previously JustMock also could support that scenario, but it was a bit, let's say, a bit complicated. Not much, but a bit. And we had a lot of clients actually who were opening support tickets about hey, how we can mock those async methods, how to return a specific value. We are experiencing some exception here. What's happening? So we decided to make an explicit returns async API that will help them in resolving all of those issues.
Nice. All right, so do you want to show us some of this stuff?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
let me give you the screen here. There you go. You should be ready to share now. Yep, we see it.
Okay. Let me just move a few windows before opening my Visual Studio. So
You should maybe bump up the fonts a little bit.
A bit more, like that.
There you go.
Is that okay?
There you go. Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so I will just firstly show what's the issue with the previous approach, and then we'll show how the returns async work. So this is a typical unit test, which is for an async method that we need to await and validate the value. And what we're doing here is just using the plain old returns method. And for some reason, we want to make sure that this method is called, and we want to return a value. So this is a valid code. It will be built, and after it is built, we can actually use the value. Okay, we need to wait for use 2. We can execute it, and surprise, surprise, it won't work. And it will actually throw an exception that some cast is happening. So our clients had a difficult time of understanding what's happening here. So essentially what's happening is that this async execute method will expect the return value to be task of integer. And here the return value is just plain integer. So to overcome that, the client should actually say task from result and then expected value. And this way it could work. But for some reason, some of our clients were not really familiar with that approach. So what we actually did is to create a return async value, return async method, where you can just simply put the integer value that you want, and everything will work for you. So we are building, we are executing, and it works. So this is what we, in essence, have done. Of course, this will work for tasks and value tasks, and the difference is that the task is a reference value and will be allocated on the heap, where the value task will be allocated in the stack. So the value task is actually a new thing to .NET Core. I'm not sure in which version they actually introduced it, but it's a new thing.
Yeah, and I like the return async, the way you're doing it, because when you do async in a way, it's syntactical sugar, but there's like a state machine behind it, and if you nest those calls, like what you're returning, that can get a little complicated because you don't know which one you're waiting on. You just want to focus on the exact async call that you want to mock test. So this makes it super clear that here's a empty envelope, and then it'll eventually come back, and that's your chance to mock.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, and you got Azure DevOps support, and then I'm guessing this is Visual Studio 2022 you're using.
This is Visual Studio 2022, yes, and yeah, 2022, and we used a .NET 7 project.
Nice.
Yeah, to do that. Yeah, so yeah, we're supporting .NET 7, and yeah, it's a bit of a syntax issue. Yeah, we're doing some stuff behind the scenes, so the clients can have a quicker way of writing those unit tests. So even if it is like one line of code, if we can save you the time to write it like 20 times, well, it works.
Yeah,
it works
nice.
all the time.
Nice. Very nice. Anything else, Misha, you want to show?
Well, this is essentially what we've done. For this release, like I said, .NET 7 really, we had a lot of issues there. We finally managed to overcome them. But typically, when I start to write unit tests, I would like to mostly create the mocks with the behavior which is co-original. So the original code to be used, and only when I want something to be mocked, only then the different value will be returned or different logic will be executed. This is typically how I would like to do it. I know that in some cases this is not applicable. Let's say like the case with the interface, because you can just use the co-original, because you need to create an instance of that interface, which is essentially a class that is that inherits that interface. But yeah, I typically really like to work with the original logic and then just change the bits where I want something different, just to put the state of the application in a specific way, so the logic that I want to be executed to be exactly that.
Nice, nice. Yeah, and I mean, sometimes we just see the tip of the iceberg. Like, you can just say, oh, we have .NET 7 support now, but there's a lot of things you are doing behind the scenes. And I mean, the .NET engineering teams, they're always looking to fine-tune performance and some of the internal data structures that you're using, and that has an impact on how we unit test. So kudos to Misha, you and the team for keeping up and going through the roadblocks and making sure we have .NET 7 support. So Misha, I'm going to pose a question to you from the chat room. I'm just going to reword it. Sebastian was asking. So we generally don't like to compare products to products. We like to stand on the virtues of what we are doing. But compared to other mocking solutions that are out there, Misha, how do you think like what value does JustMock provide?
Well, that's a very good question, because we know there are some very powerful open source mocking tools, which does not have the same functionality as JustMock, because JustMock have the profiler, which enables JustMock to mock like static methods, static constructors, extension methods, which are essentially static. They can mock sealed classes, protected API, private methods. Well, essentially everything. There is no limitation to what JustMock can actually mock. And yeah, those open source mocking frameworks, they're just limited to public virtual API, and that's it. You can't do anything else, where JustMock can mock everything.
Right, right. Yeah, and on top of all of the features, and really JustMock doesn't get in the way. You can do anything you want, but I do also want to emphasize that our support is kind of legendary. You have an engineering team that's standing with you. So if you run into issues, we are always here to help. All right, so Misha, anything else with JustMock that you want to mention?
Well, I can mention another advantage of JustMock. We have JustMock debug window that will help you to quickly debug if something is wrong with your mocking, because sometimes you can like put a different argument here, let's say 20, and the call will be actually made with 30. And when that's happening, well, your unit test will probably fail, and you will wonder, hey, what's happening? And to quickly debug what's happening, we have introduced the JustMock debug window, which is very, very powerful and very helpful in that. And it shows you what invocations are done to this method, with what arguments, and everything that is related to how the method is executed. So that's another big advantage of JustMock.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. All right, very nice. Misha, thank you, to you and the team for being hardcore engineers and keeping us, on the bleeding edge with .NET support and all of the unit testing requirements that you might have. We hope that JustMock will help you out. All right, so I think it's time to switch gears one last time, and my good friend Eve has been waiting patiently. So let me take the screen back one more time, and let's talk about Fiddler, because I think most of you are kind of waiting to know what's cooking in Fiddler. And the team has been so amazing. Eve, I mean you share the same sentiments here. What has been churned out in the last just like 2 years has been amazing.
I agree. It's been a banner year. I'm going to cover some of the things that came out in the R3 release, but even releases before that, they've been at a really extreme cadence with big features like WebSocket support, HTTP2 support, certificate information. So we'll go through today, but I do recommend if you are interested and you'd like to learn about what else has happened this year, check out the release notes. I think you're just going to be pretty astounded.
True. Yeah. So while Eve is going to talk about what's in this release, you might miss out some of the things that we have already done this year. So, take a look at the product. And actually, before we start, here's your opportunity, Eve. Tell us about Fiddler Everywhere. What is it, and what is the Fiddler family now?
Sure. So Fiddler Everywhere is a solution for all, whether you're working on Windows, Macs, or Linux. So it's a web debugging proxy that allows you to analyze your traffic requests. It allows you to inspect your traffic as well as modify responses. So being able to do all three things really well is extremely rare. And what it does, along with some of the other productivity things we've been talking about, is allows you to be more productive and to deliver successful outcomes, right? Everyone's tasked with having to deliver better solutions, better code, all of those things. And it just wraps it all up for you in a nice, easy to use UI with straightforward features so the learning curve is really short.
Yeah, and Fiddler is such a core part of most developers tool chains. Like, this is how we build stuff, be it APIs or be it apps that you're building. Maybe you're fine-tuning performance. Like, it's your everyday tool, and that's been evolving. So that's just Fiddler Everywhere. It's cross-platform, works everywhere now. But you also have Fiddler in a few other modes, right?
Right, so we have our original Fiddler Classic, which a lot of people are familiar with, which is the Windows-only community version. Then we also have Fiddler Jam, which is a newer troubleshooting solution for like secure bug reports. We also have Fiddler Core, which is that embeddable engine. And then we do have Fiddler Cap, which is more of a lightweight screen capture tool.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is a bigger family. Fiddler is a very well-known name, but like I appreciate you mentioned that there are a lot of things that fall under that umbrella.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Fiddler Everywhere has really come a long, long way. It's a truly cross-platform solution, works on Windows, Mac, and Linux, but you can see just some of the features that, Eve has been talking about that we've been busy with, HTTP2 support, WebSockets. I love WebSocket support because, like, when I'm building real-time apps, I can see the stuff going in and out of my app. HTTPS support all over the place, being able to compare sessions. So Eve, which things amongst this interest or excite you the most?
I share your enthusiasm about the WebSocket support. I know on the previous webinar, we really went into that deep. That's a big one. HTTP2 traffic, I think that's huge. I mean, a majority of the sites today are using that. So if you're unable to do that traffic, I think you're missing out a big part of your responsibilities. And then some of these upcoming features that we're talking about, comparing snapshots and requests, just being able to do so much within that UI without having to switch contexts just makes your life easier and keeps you focused, right? Because I talked about in some of my talks, I don't think anyone says their passion, is web debugging. It's something that we're all tasked with. But yeah, if you have to do it the right way. Do it the way that can integrate into your workflow that isn't gonna cause you headaches or be so painful. Like, it doesn't have to be. And I think that's the biggest thing I want to advocate for, is that debugging can be different than what you probably know it as right now.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we have Fiddler 3.4. That's the latest version that we're talking about, and the team has done a lot of different things here. So walk us through a few new things.
Right, so when we talk about the Apple Silicon chip support, this is for those Mac users who may have a different architecture of Mac, right? They might have the Intel chip or the Apple Silicon chip. So now you have, when you go to download your version of the product, you have a choice between that installation. So this is going to give you some of those performance gains and make just for overall better experience if you are using the Mac system.
So that's me. I am still on an Intel Mac, but I am very enticed with the M1 and the M2 chips because their performance is through the roof compared to what we have before. So I am almost ready to make the transition, and I'm glad that we have Fiddler natively built in.
Very nice.
All right. What about offline support?
So this is a big one. This is, even if you don't have a connection to our servers, you are now allowed to extend your access for Fiddler Everywhere without having to log out or lose your work in progress. So I know like on the way over, we were talking about Dev 360 that majority of us were just at. And on the plane, one of our engineers was still working on his debugging. So it just allows you to be able to still use those features like rules and filters that don't require that cloud access, so you can keep working. Just another productivity
nice.
hack or workaround.
Yeah, and I'm really hoping you actually don't demo this, because we don't want you to go offline
No.
while you're showing this.
I don't want to do that. I don't want to take everything down. I don't want to be that person on a Friday.
Right. Okay, domains. So we can look through, with certificates, we can look through most HTTPS traffic, but are you saying we can selectively not do some?
Yeah, so if you want your operating system to bypass certain domains, we can have Fiddler Everywhere ignore those by putting them in to the connection settings. So what you can do is say, like, do not have Fiddler Everywhere replace the HTTPS certificate in these instances. So one example would be like Apple Store, right? So let's say you're doing something with mobile, and that is one that you want to bypass. We can easily do that either through the right click within the live traffic collection or in the settings.
Right. And sounds like you're also giving developers different ways of, the layout works. Like, how do we want to see the list of requests and responses, and where we drill in, it can now be horizontal or vertical.
Yeah, so this is nice, and I'll show a demo once we switch over, but it allows you to expand your workspace, right? I mean, our screen sizes are so big. If we get the requests and all of the information that we have within Fiddler Everywhere, like real estate matters.
Yeah,
so you can now,
indeed.
you can now go from that, like you said, from that vertical to the horizontal. You can even like minimize the columns. You can focus in on more of live sessions, or you want to look at more of the certificate details. Just giving you the opportunity, what works for you. How much do you want to see?
Yeah, and then I know a lot of developers like, to flip the monitor upside, or in portrait mode, and then that way they see more of the code. I actually still have like the big, curved monitors, and it's just like I like my horizontal space, and I'm glad that you're giving me that option. Yeah. All right. Now tell us about Fiddler Jam, because this has quickly iterated and it's up to like 1.7. What's new with more integration?
So Fiddler Jam, as I mentioned briefly, is that remote troubleshooting solution built for support teams, right? Who are working with end users who need to capture what they're experiencing, and then internally on your dev team, someone who can be that first level support and go through and see what that process should be to rectify it. So now what we're doing is we're taking the power of Fiddler Jam and allowing you to embed it into your own application. Right, so this is a JavaScript library, and with a few lines of code, you can have that same built-in functionality within your own app. So I think that's really big.
Okay, so the use case would be like if I'm building a modern web app, I can embed this inside of my app, and I don't have to go to the browser.
Yep, to allow your users to be able to report situations to you without having to leave your application.
Okay, yeah, I can see a lot of uses of that. All right, what else? I see, new video formats and a bunch of other things you're doing. What's the and also like choosing what you share. Like that sounds like the sliding record feature.
Yeah, so what that is if the end user is recording using the browser extension, and let's say they're capturing a whole bunch of their situations start to end, but then after reviewing it, they realize, hey, really there's only 10 seconds that I need to send to my support team. You're able to specify what that duration is with the timestamp and send it on to the team. So it's a great way just to narrow it down, focus right on the issue. Don't have to send like a whole 3-minute recording, just the information that you think is valuable. And you came out in the release before, but you have an opportunity to preview it too. Sometimes people want that opportunity after I record something. Let me just make sure I got everything I wanted. So you can review it and then specify that. And with that DOM format, that allows you to do that, so you don't have to do the pixel perfect.
Nice. And also, like as a user, like it gives me the control. Like maybe I'm doing something sensitive that I don't want to share. Like here, take this section only.
Very good point.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to show us some stuff?
Yeah, let me show you some stuff.
Get you the screen here.
Okay.
All right, we see it.
Okay, so this is what I want to show you first real quick is for that Silicon support is that you just come to that Fiddler Everywhere page, and if you're going ahead and downloading the Mac version, here's your choice. And depending which one you select, you know, the build is there. Talked a little bit about that extended offline support. So you can see here, this is what it shows when your login's verified. If you're unable to refresh, you would get that. Like I said, I'm not going off, so I just wanted to show you that quickly. Let me pull up Fiddler Everywhere. So this is the Fiddler Everywhere UI, and right now I do have it in that horizontal view. And you can see how quickly by clicking the button here, I'm back in my vertical view.
See, I like this.
See?
I like this a lot more than the yeah.
And like I said before, you know, you can go over here and I can take those in even further, but I can just get more screen space here. With that bypass list, there's a couple different options we have. We can right click, bypass, and quickly just hit it there. Use this example.com to my bypass list, or I can go back into my settings, go into my connections, and I can keep holding a running list here.
Mm-hmm.
Now you also see this, I'm going to point this out. This is that HTTP2 support, which we demoed a while back, but this is pretty important and a great opportunity. And then I know Sam likes to allow remote computers to connect. That's how if you want to work with your mobile.
Right, right. Yeah, and it is so nice. Like, unless you have a proxy like this, there's just no way you're going to capture traffic out of your mobile, you know, simulators or emulators. And also, what I genuinely like is if I can just actually have my iPhone or my Android phone go through my, Wi-Fi. It just has to be on the same Wi-Fi. You have to open up a port, and then I can see traffic on my devices on Fiddler. Which is on my desktop, right? So yes, that visibility is really nice as a native, you know, platform app developer.
I agree. And then in terms of Fiddler Jam, I want to show you this real quick. Let me go to, here's a Fiddler Jam Chrome extension. I already have it installed. And what I can do here is in my advanced options, you can see I have the DOM turned on for the DOM video. I hit start capture. And this is where you typically, you know, within that browser tab, go around. Where am I going here? I go back into Fiddler Jam and hit stop capture. And it shows that, you know, I've captured 127 sessions that fast. Then I go ahead and get link. And all of a sudden I have that link and I can send all of it over. And it's really nice because I can copy this clipboard, or I can even password protect it if I wanted. So this is one of those, the newer options like I was talking about. And then if you wanted, let me show you guys one more thing that I passed up on.
So when you do the selective, like the sliding recording, is that something you set up before you start the capture, or you know,
yeah,
after?
you'll enable the DOM and then allow that to pop up, and then you can do this submit specific duration. Let me just
okay.
Just want to show you guys the portal real quick. So that link, and then I would come in here, and then I have that whole session that I just did.
Okay. Yeah, and then your support teams, if it's genuinely you know, a bug, they can, you know, copy that link and then, you know, send it off to your dev teams, and then one click of a button, and then they open it up in Fiddler Everywhere, and now it's a part of their, you know, workload anyways.
Correct. So yeah, lots of great functionality that's built in. Like I said, the opportunity now to embed this into your own application is a big step forward, and I think a lot of people are going to find that useful depending on what they're struggling with, because customer service is top of mind for everyone. Customer-centric environment we're all working within, so I think any type of enhancements in that arena are going to be very fruitful.
Indeed, indeed. I think for some reason, Eve, we lost your camera, but we can still hear you, which is the important thing here. Anything else you want to share?
Sorry, I'm back.
Oh, okay, there we go.
In terms of sharing it, there's a lot more coming. I think that's one of the big things. You know, Rick and Misha both come up with some great things. You know, Rick says he's bringing all the fun. I want Fiddler to keep bringing the fun too, and we are. And I think that's a lot of things that we have to look forward to.
Yeah, and it is like, I mean, like what Rick said, like I think Rick's exact words were like saved my bacon, but it is true. Like unless you have, you know, visibility into what's going on when your app is making a network call, you are in, you know, in darkness. You don't know what you don't know.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't fix what you can't see, right? Is what we've talked about.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what Fiddler does. It gives you that visibility that you wouldn't have otherwise.
All right, right. Now you mentioned like a lot more fun things are coming. Is there a roadmap that people can go check out?
There is a roadmap. Let's see here. And some things that are on the roadmap are some gRPC support.
Oh, I like that.
Right. Rules groupings, some big composer improvements. I'm excited to share those once I have a little bit more. And just some more built-in productivity enhancements in terms of like the filters and performance suggestions, right? And bandwidth simulation. So there's tons.
I think it was last release. Remind me, Eve, that we had the advanced filtering options.
Yes.
And that is so you know, nice to have, because it's also easy to get overwhelmed with just how much Fiddler is capturing, right? So you want to drill down to a specific request, maybe on a certain port, or a request that only has, you know, this amount of parameters. You can drill down into all of that in Fiddler.
I mean, because you can do that live traffic, and it can be overwhelming.
Right.
But you want to narrow in, you can do that, you know, with a couple clicks.
Right, and also remind me, if is the whole comparing of sessions, was that done somewhere in between last release and this one?
Yeah, so we started out with the comparing the sessions within the same tab, but now you can do multiple tabs and you can do them side by side. So for example, if one request is failing, another one isn't, but you're not sure why, to you at first glance they're the same, you can look at them side by side and see where those nuances are and what that fix may need to be. So yeah.
Nice. All right. And from the chat room here, this might be a licensing question, Eve, but I'm going to ask you anyways, in case you know off the top. The whole Fiddler Jam with Fiddler Everywhere, is it together or is it separate?
They are separate. I mean, they are complementary products, but they do have separate licensing. But we can always, you can buy them within the same shopping cart, you know, so you can bundle them together. But yeah, they are separate purchases.
Nice. Okay. And Bert in the Q&A chat room is asking pretty much the same thing that you know, all of us struggle with, right? So can you capture a customer action on you know, his or her browser with Fiddler? It's actually Fiddler Jam that you would use it. So this would be useful, for example, if a customer would call you and they explain their problem, but it's hard for you to know what they're seeing because you don't know what they've done in the browser. So that's exactly the point, right?
Yes, yes.
This is you know, you could not have wrote it any better. This is like doesn't work on my machine, and you don't know what's not working because you don't know what the user is doing. So yes, point them to Fiddler Jam. They don't need to, you know, do anything else on their system. It's a browser extension, but you know, have them record what they're doing. And then you get to see exactly what they clicked or what they did. And that way you know if it's something that the user is doing wrong or it's really a bug. I mean, the user, you know, in Apple words, like the users can hold their phone wrong at times, you know, so you might have to, you know, guide them through. But yes, Bert, that's exactly the point of Fiddler Jam.
Yeah, and it's reducing that back and forth complexity, right? Let's say you're going through a more traditional approach where you're exchanging emails back and forth and someone's telling you their steps, but now you can see a video of it. You can inspect, you know, each of those elements and figure out what it is. And kind of go back to the first question, if you determine that there is something you need to fix, you can actually export this right into Fiddler Everywhere for further investigation. So it, like I said, they are, besides just part of the Fiddler family, they do interwork together. Different use cases, right, in terms of the team using them, but yet they can kind of give you that whole tool chain, unified tool chain.
Right. Another question here, C. Cox, silly question here. I actually don't think that's silly. That's actually very on point. Can users see the device IDs of any traffic that, you know, you're capturing with Fiddler Everywhere? And the answer is yes. And I actually particularly use this because I would have, being a .NET MAUI developer, I would have a desktop app and I would have a mobile app, and I want to see which device it is that it's communicating through. So yes, it will actually show you that, hey, this is an iPhone that's the process name in your browser. So it'll show you exactly which device or which app triggered that network traffic capture. And the question is, I would like to see which third-party apps are collecting stuff like IDs and IMIs. So yes, and it's actually maybe a little bit overwhelming and embarrassing how much Fiddler captures. So it will tell you every time your apps are calling home, and everybody does it, right? So Apple and Microsoft and Google, you can see that kind of traffic all throughout. You can see everything. All right. Eve, anything else with Fiddler?
I'm loving all the questions. Ask us your questions. I think that's one of the big things we want to get people to do is take a look at Fiddler again. Fiddler has been around, but it's changed a lot since the Fiddler you may have known. And the capabilities are endless. Can Fiddler do that? When people ask me, and just as Sam was a testament to it, the answer is typically yes. I haven't run across many things where I had to say no. So if you haven't checked out Fiddler in a while, I really suggest that you do. We do offer a free trial, and it just, by starting to use it, seeing what's available, integrating it into your workflow, the potential gains are huge, right? And you remove some of those high consequence scenarios that come with going it alone.
Yeah, and I genuinely appreciate how much the team has done in the last couple of years. So speaking of interactivity, Eve, I'm going to steal the screen back from you unless you have anything else to show.
I appreciate it.
I think we want to actually ask where folks are. Eve did show us all the network tricks. Here's a quick poll for you, especially if you are on Fiddler land. So after learning all the things that Fiddler Everywhere does for you, particularly in this release, but also what we have built up, which feature do you think is most impactful for what you're trying to do? The offline support, the Apple Silicon chip, which I would raise my hand, that's it for me. Skipping the decryption on specified domains, all of the above, not sure yet, I need to test everything out, right? So it's kind of diving into some of the things we did specifically for this release, but let us know if any of these seem to be the most impactful for you, or is it something else you're looking for, or is it something that we have done in a couple of releases past, and that's fine too. And if it's all of the above, you're going to make the team really happy.
Right.
All right. So going once, twice, and let's see where you folks what you folks think. We're going to see the poll response soon. Okay, not sure yet. I need to test everything out. That's fair. That's exactly what Eve is saying. Try it out. You might be surprised by how much Fiddler has evolved and how much we're doing. I'm in the Apple Silicon chip camp here, Eve. I genuinely love that. And every app is starting to most major apps are starting to customize it to Apple Silicon, and it just the performance benefits are huge. All right, and folks love the extended offline support. That's good to know as well.
Yeah, that was a big user-generated feature. As with a lot of the other teams, we do pay attention to feature requests and forum posts and things along those lines, and we try to incorporate those as early as we can into the next release. So keep that coming as well.
And maybe the use case is like you're trying to shut off all the distractions, and you're trying to just pinpoint why your app is not behaving the way it is when you don't have network. Maybe a situation like this. So we are absolutely happy to help. All right, I think that was a quick hour and a half almost that we have been talking. But any other questions you might have here from the chat room? I actually have not had a chance to check Twitter yet, but if you do ask questions on Twitter, we will absolutely get back to you. But let me take a quick look here to see if there are any questions we missed. And then there are folks in the chat room who are, having separate conversations with our engineering teams. That's all great. Seacox was asking, the latest versions of Android are hard to scan with other network proxies. Does this tool see traffic? Yes, Yeah. I use the latest Android, simulator. I'm not an Android person, so I don't have Android devices, but the latest Android emulators, it'll happily capture all of it. It's a proxy, so everything has to go through it. And we actually have dedicated documentation. So before you start, read through that and do a little bit of the setup that iOS might need or Android might need, and then it will capture everything that you're seeing. All right. Yeah, I think, most of the questions that are in the chat room, they have been answered, and we have talked through some of the ones that are beneficial to all. So yeah, I think we are good. Yeah, I think we are, really good here. Eve and Rick and Michail, I want to thank you for taking the time first to put in the effort and the love that our products need every release, but also taking the time out to come and share all of this with me. And I would I would be completely in the dark without you. So just thank you for highlighting so many things that we can help enterprise workflows and developers be more productive with.
Well, thank you, Sam. You're always a great host, and we appreciate you pulling this all together for the four of us to be able to share all these things.
And we do have folks in the back room, so big shout out to them for working on the products and happily answering all of their questions. Like, we are here all throughout the year to help you through any roadblocks that you might have. Those are some of your social handles, our social handles, but you have support tickets. If you're new to DevCraft, if you're new to any of our family of products, tell us what you're up to. We are here to help. Our feedback portals are always open. Our PMs and engineering teams are always looking. So tell us what you want to see, and we are here to help. So hopefully you see that with R3 release. This is a major release for us, because also it was significantly different from the other ones. Because like Test Studio and Fiddler, they iterate way quickly actually. But this is the first time that we have been able to align that with the Telerik and the Candy UI, the developer tooling releases. So this was a big release, and we're just happy to have everything out, and hopefully we are able to make you a little bit more productive in your workflows. And yeah, like I said, we are here to help. Talk to us. And with that, I think that's a wrap. That's a wrap for this release, and we'll be back early next year with our next release. But until then, stay productive, be happy, and be the best you can at work. And thank you so very much. Thank you again, Rick, Eve, and Michail, and we'll see you at another next webinar. So thank you, folks.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Sam. Bye.
So long.